Hey guys, this is the Ecron Writer here. Welcome you to another saga in the Bouncer Tetralogy. Originally, it was supposed to be a trilogy, and this is actually Saga 3, the Black-Hooded Sion Saga, which, according to the game, it's actually Sion's own doppelganger, and if you unlock him in survival mode, you would actually unlock his alternate outfit as well as his alternate theme song for survival mode, versus mode, and what have you. So, inspired by that, I was looking up a guide one day, and this was the inspiration. So, while I was doing the Bouncer trilogy a few summers ago, I finally get to finish this story arc. So, let's get on with it, shall we? Oops. As we make our way from the drabble of Dog Street to the Black-Hooded Sion Saga. So, let's get this started. Alright, the Black-Hooded Sion Saga. Don't know the bouncer, they belong to their corresponding owners. The Black-Hooded Sion Saga is finally here. It'll tell the backstory of Sion's own doppelganger. This is something I've been thinking of for years, but I never finished, unlike the Mikado Saga. I'm not sure why. Anyway, here's how it all began. Act 1, because there's 3 acts here. Sorry if they would drag on for too long. It all started several months after the Mikado incident, and late one night, Sion began to get very intense nightmares and flashbacks. He was standing in thick fog. As he frantically looked around, it cleared up, and he noticed he was standing inside the Mikado dome. He remembered this was where he first saw Doragon, only it was completely empty and the piano was abandoned. He watched him kill his master right before his very eyes. Only this time Wong said that it was Sion's fault that he couldn't save him. Startled, he noticed that Dominique was resting at the same place she was before, and he was fighting Doragon, alone, but still with one hand. There was no Panther, it was just Sion and the Tower of Terror, one-on-one, mano-a-mano. The battle ended well with Sion as the victor until the sucker punch sent him flying back a few feet. Stunned, the floor collapsed right beneath him as Doragon snapped a finger, like last time. Then he woke up. His eyes shot open and he was laying in a bed close to Dominique. Slowly, without causing any disturbance, he went out and snuck to the door. He hesitated and looked back as he started to open it, but the android was resting soundly. Satisfied, he marched to the lavatory. He needed to perk up. It was his own birthday, after all. Unlike last time in the prologue, he wasn't shunned about it. It was on a Saturday during the late summer. Edge was just as humid as ever, and Fate was getting ready for the occasion. Volt, Co, Boss, and Echidna were setting up the festivities. As he was hanging up some decor, "Hey, this place should be jumping. We hadn't had a full-blown bash in so long." Correction, they have celebrated other birthdays before, but none of them were incredibly special. They were mostly small, quiet, and casual, except when the patrons lose their way over their drinks. "Don't be so sure, Co. After all, they always have me." She pointed at herself sitting on a stool. Ever since she became Fate's new bouncer, she was mostly there for attention. However, it was only used to mess around with troublemakers. Her appearance may be sensual, but she'll quickly turn to a vicious beast when needed. "You're not planning on giving Sion any lap dances, are you?" "Of course not, Volt. What do you think I am? Besides, there's going to be some young ones coming here. Goten, Trunks, and Ayame should have gotten their invitations right about now." Well, I'm not sure who should watch over the bar." "I'll do it. No problem. Just as long as I don't get another assignment." He hoped that Leanne, his boss and the head of Lucas, wouldn't interfere with the party, especially as soon as his comm starts ringing. It has gotten him in trouble many times before, like in the stealth mission. I wonder if Wong would participate. He seems capable. They have become close friends since they met and they happen to be around the same age. Everyone blushed, and they did notice as he was giving Sion a couple spars from time to time. Good thing he'll be 20. I despise underage drinking. Legal drinking or purchasing alcoholic beverages is 20 years in Japan. Much like the US, they have very strict laws, perhaps even more tighter regulations than across the Pacific. Meanwhile, as he, Dominique, and Wang got done with breakfast, Sion called Ayame, and even Capsule Corp at the occasion. Even though the nightmare was still fresh in his mind, he never talked about it. Ayame and Trunks said they got their RVSPs and will show up at 8 p.m. sharp as instructed. They will actually get Goten as well and head to Fate using the Nimbus. She also said she will wear her cap that Dominique stitched for the birthday bash. The three miners entered the bar promptly. Sion, Dominique, Wang, Volko, Echidna, and Boss were waiting, and Krillin and Android 18 were the special guests. Yes! They finally get a chance to meet Krillin and Android 18. Another android. While she was called by Sion, Ayame suggested to bring them as he and the android would be very interesting since their relationships are similar. Though their daughter Marin was babysat by Gohan and Videl, Krillin and 18 were always looking forward to visit, and they gladly introduced themselves to the bouncers, especially Sion. They often discussed with him what it was like falling for an android, and also meeting and saving her from Cell. I don't get why Krillin was infatuated with Android 18, but hey, better than Marin in the Garlic Jr. saga. Ugh. One of Sion's gifts was a huge check from Capsule Corp. Bulma wanted to give some charity to the town of Edge since she heard it was under a deep recession. From Goten, there was a Dragon Ball pendant. Ayame gave him a mix CD she made with songs that she downloaded, and each song reminded her of Sion and his friends. Volt and Echidna gave him some fashionable spiky armbands. Ko was uncertain about his present. He actually gave him a stuffed sleek Black Panther. It was a decent choice since it kind of reminded him of Chaldea's metamorphosis. Wang gave him some new motorcycle gloves, and the Dog Street logo was attached to them. They were incredibly flimsy, and they actually had room for Sion's fingers, like motorcycle gloves. And Dominique gave him a painting she made, and had a large image of Sion and her side by side walking away beneath the night sky. Dog Street logo was on one corner, her emblem was on the other. I'll show it to you on DeviantArt. Goten, Trunks, and Ayame hung out at the second floor while the others celebrated near the counter. Boy, you are a lucky man, Sion, Krillin remarked. They were talking about his missions rescuing Dominique from Mikado. Greatly admired him of his courage and devotion to her. 18 might be Dominique's coach in how to use her agile, strong figure properly in times when she ever needs to defend herself. Because she'll know when the time is right, if someone dares to take advantage of her one day. It was quite a relief that Boss wasn't too alarmed as he found Dominique as an android instead of a human. He was glad that she could still be Fate's own mascot since she'll always live on. Just then there was an enormous chocolate cake brought to them, only it was actually a fried ice cream cake. Then of course Boss was ready for the patron's orders. Will's sake, also known as rice wine, is the national drink of Japan. Lager beer, pronounced biru in Japanese, is the most popular drink, pointed out each selection. And Boss stocked everyone on the shelves. Widely available brands include Kirin, Sapporo, Suntory, and Asahi. Since it's Sion's birthday, he gets to pick the first drink, aside from making the first cut. I'm gonna pick that one. Jukebox stopped playing an awkward tune known as The Bouncer by Kicks Like a Mule. As daring as always, he'd chosen the most potent, the Sapporo. Everyone gasped at the choice except the kids. Sion? Are you sure about this? What is it? What did he pick? He picked the Sapporo. What's that? As a connoisseur, Boss explained what it is. Sapporo is known to have 100% malt beer and has a touch of class. It's known as the oldest drink brewed in Japan since it was made back in 1876. Sion still went with it, but only from a shot glass just to taste it. He never seemed to be bothered by the aftertaste. If anything, he was enjoying it. He ordered a small glass. Everyone else chose their own drinks. The kids got soft drinks. The three miners never understood, so they didn't mind their shocked expressions. They just asked for soft drinks. Sapporo was definitely by far the hardest beverage the boss ever had in his inventory. He hopes that Sion won't do anything foolish. Ko eventually finished his shift within a few hours, and it was the Echidna's turn. Thank goodness most of the patrons were sober, except of course the 20-year-old. He got a little more cocky as he wanted to have up to 3 more small glasses, one at a time. I think you had enough. Wang and Volk couldn't have agreed more. His head was really swimming as he held it. Tried to clear it as he took a few deep breaths. What's wrong with Sion? I think he had a little too many. She still wishes she won't dare to wrap her lips around a long neck when she grows older. He was given another slice of the chocolate fried ice cream cake. His appetite became ravenous before he scoffed it down. The sane boys were impressed, though the rest of the guys were almost turned off. You know the sayings, they eat fast. They were muttering something was beginning to awaken inside of Sion. Ayame was the first to feel it. She gazed over to him, and Sion actually offered to head outside by himself. He was wobbling, held onto the stool. He became still for a few seconds before he fell to his knees. His body was burning up. Then Wang and Dominique decided to escort him back home. A wave of exhaustion swept over him, and he rested on the cold concrete floor. His master and beloved both carried him, and each arm was around their shoulders. Sion wound up within his own bed. Dominique decided to give him some space as she left the bed only for him. His blank face was illuminated by the moon's glow. Then he began to tremble as he felt strange. Where am I? Felt a cool, refreshing breeze. Thought he was still dreaming until he made a quick inspection. His gloves felt tighter. Donned on a black hooded jacket instead of the usual red. Even his attire was shrouded in shadow. He was wearing his neck collar as well. What is this? How do I? Grinned at his new look. Wow. This feels amazing. Gazed at the full large moon, and his confidence began to grow. He desired for a certain lust, for blood, for violence, for dominance. His fist clenched while his heart and mind started to pound and race within him. With every beat he felt anew, reborn. Closed his eyes for a few minutes as he absorbed the thrilling sensation. The alcohol must have fed and awakened his prowess. He also had a flashback of what Dorgan said in the gallios, about forgetting the past and not caring of what happened. Those feelings were gone and replaced by this new indulgence. The pleasure of fighting for the sake of fighting. Sion wasn't afraid of the delivery, but enthralled. His worries began to wash away, vanish, and he sneered as he saw the moon again. He was more hungry and ready than ever. With his new signature hood up, he goes on a fighting spree as he picked them among whatever gang he saw. No matter how tough, intimidating, or strong they were, it was no match. He was lusting over his newfound powers and appearance within every passing second. It was as if Sion's senses just skyrocketed, including his endurance, strength, and speed. It was almost like an intense adrenaline rush. By the time the night ended, he woke up inside his empty bed, as if nothing happened. Yet his experience was still vivid and exhilarating. He never felt this great before, and he still had this unusual demeanor. Because of that, Sion decided to continue wearing it. This did give him a more sinister complexion, but he felt so confident that he never wanted to give it up. He also put on some more dog-straight apparel, including a thick leather belt with a canine skull. Well, basically, it's what Black-Hooded Sion looks like. And he put Dominique's pendant aside. During the day, things seemed normal. However, everyone noticed Sion as his polar opposite or as his own antithesis. They thought Sion has some kind of dissociative identity disorder or a multiple personality disorder. They figured Sion's now a loner. Sometimes he'd been called a shadow. Shows no fear, remorse, or worry, and always living in the moment while reveling in his destruction to others. Wong disapproved all this as he said he's a lot worse. Acting more of a delinquent, he's definitely not the same person as you once knew him. Dominique eventually caught on both by Wong and seeing him strutting his stuff and just showing off. One time, one of Sion's friends called Ayame, and even she was shocked at the news. She knew something was very ominous about him the moment he was drinking and savoring more over the Sapporo. At night, that was when darkness rose to the surface. It happened to be during his shift on another clear evening. When he stopped by the bar after a couple drinks, it was time. He hardly talked to anyone, not even Volko, Echidna, or Boss. While he was outside, he kept gazing up at the moon, shining down on him, filling him with that same lust he felt before. This is my true calling. I will be Fate's own mascot. To represent all of Edge, I'll be known as the Wolf of Dog Street. Yeah, the lone wolf of Dog Street. I shall be the city's own top dog. He thought it was so fitting for him as the predator of the night, the one who seeks out alone the alpha male, Fate and Edge's very own. By the time someone said his shift was over, Sion didn't know who, since he was deep in his own thoughts. He decided to extend it. He proudly said, I'm a bouncer, as I make a living and a difference risking my life for Fate and for Edge. I love my job. Dark Energy kept on manipulating him. Soon it was closing time and Boss decided to extend everyone's hours. Okay, people, here's how it's done. This could only be temporary because I'm not certain in terms of hours and payment. Volt will take a half night while Echidna takes the other. Ko might take one whole evening until closing, and Sion will take the next. Happy hour may be subject to change. However, the Mad Dog didn't like to hear of it. He actually wanted to take all the shifts for himself without any regard to his co-workers. They were really appalled he would say something like this. You're actually taking our hours away? After all we've worked for? Sion, this isn't like you at all. Mr. Wong was right about you. You're not yourself. Fulton and Echidna just stood speechlessly as they recalled some similar incidents that happened between them as Master Mikado's bodyguards. He just shook it off and Astro demanded, Just give me another Sapporo! However, Boss didn't approve of it very much because he nearly frightened of Sion's sudden demeanor and appearance. The bulky bouncer stepped up. Sion, that's enough! He faced him with a tight expression. The last thing he wanted is to be challenged. What's the matter? Am I stealing your spotlight, Volt? You should be familiar with all of this by now, with you and Echidna. As for me, I'm the one who should be the bar's own mascot. His desire was finally out in the open and he showed no signs of recoil. Suddenly, something was upon him as he recollected a time when he tried to end his life once just about a year ago. And it's one of the flashbacks in one of the loading screens when you play Sion's story, by the way. So, there's that. This is actually when he met Volt for the first time. Damn it. Ugh. Works for me as a bouncer. So yeah, there's that. You've tried to erase me. Also big and bad. I lost to you last time. I'm so pumped up and determined right now. It's not gonna work this time. Before it escalated when Sion raised a fist, Ko wanted to break them up. Guys, knock it off. You'll both cause another frenzy again, he warned as he remembered the giant brawl Sion made. His anger kept on going towards him, pushed the meddling bouncer away, and as Volt countered, he easily avoided every blow. Ayame or Nimbus noticed the catastrophe within Fate. She was actually too scared to get herself involved. I don't blame her. She distracted herself as she felt someone's strength fading and immediately headed to that spot. Barely taking any more punishment, Sion performed a hurricane blitz, knocking the wind out of Volt and shattering a stool. Sion took a few deep inhales and made a menacing shaking fist over his head. Echidna rushed to his side and braced for the worst. "It's time to end this!" Dominique desperately held his arm back, then he reacted as he accidentally injured her with a backhand slap, knocking her to the floor. Trembling in fear, she laid there as helpless as a distressed damsel while Ko ran to her. "No!" Gave her a hand and kept saying soothing words to her as she held him close. She knew at that moment Ko was her only defense, who hasn't been incapacitated or awestruck. Noticing Dominique's fright, the black-hooded thug stopped as he froze. Everyone became deathly silent as a graveyard. Through her tears, she said, "Sion, who are you?" He just stuttered with a pale blank look. I don't know." He walked backwards till he reached the outside of the saloon, still feeling empty and numb. Began to wander aimlessly, not caring what would happen to him. Ayumi and the Nimbus stopped in front of the bar, and the bouncers just stood as they were leaving. "Guys, we have an emergency here! It's Wong! We gotta help him!" Volt's injured from the fight he had with Sion. I don't know what got into him. It was Sion? I'll check it out. Okay, but we gotta hurry. Wong's life is at stake here. At a dark alley, Sion wound up witnessing a group of drug dealers beating the blood out of someone. Hardly feeling the urge, Sion tried to make it out. It was Master Wong? He had a flashback to when he was 16. A certain event happened to his mentor. He hasn't returned from Mikado in days. And it's another flashback here, one of the loading screens. I think this is one of the loading screens in which he gets into an air carrier for the first time. So, yeah, there's that. Wang had never returned since that day, and now he was being brutally beaten by the street gang he wound up with. He was dying just as how he was when Doppelganger killed him. Dominique, Ko, and Ayame rushed to his aid. The Z-Fighter gave Wang a senzu bean to revive him, while Sion fought each member in a violent rage. Unable to contain his fear, anger, and pain, he eventually started to split. Dark matter emitted from Sion's body as he was screaming in severe agony, holding his head, as if trying to keep his mind from short-circuiting. Everyone took cover and stood in horror as they watched Sion exorcise this demon. As he pushed harder, more of the bile exited from his body until it became a shadow of himself with his hood up. Sion looked normal and he collapsed as he fainted. Ko led the group as they ran to the fallen bouncer. Then they saw the horrid afterimage standing on a ledge several feet above them. Dominique even let out a scream. Ah! Could this be? This is his doppelganger. There are two of them! This was all of Sion's darkness kept inside him. He looked down at the terrified quartet with a hard glance and then vanished as quick as a blown-out candle. While Dominique and Wang were nursing him back to health and with Sion dealing with an intense fever, he didn't remember what happened. Except when he was having excruciating pain and losing his master. He was glad he was still alive. He was given plenty of fluids and he sipped whenever the broth touched his lips. There were some intervals in which he spoke weakly, but oftentimes he would slip into unconsciousness. He noticed the dog collar with the hanging chain was stolen. In a groggy voice he assured her he doesn't need it, even though sometimes it was used as a neck guard, which I think it is, not just style. He discovered his darkness was always inside him since he lost both Chaldea and Wong, and they mysteriously disappeared. It was present as he fought against random people, Volt and Mikado and its cronies. However, it wasn't consuming him at the moment until very recently. He realized the darkness assimilated him, transforming his outlook and personality. He tried to apologize many times, though Wong kept telling him to save his strength. During his sickness, Sion reflected all the guilt and despair, causing him to lose his will to fight. He was orphaned as a child, first on Master Wong, in a street fight, and he wanted to be like him even though it was late. He took him in, living with him. He went through rigorous training. He met up with Chaldea. She was very frail, much like Ayame. Mysteriously vanished when he was 14. A few years later, he lost Chaldea as well. Sion's feelings of sorrow at the loss of his loved one soon turned into resentment and anger. He picked fights with random guys. He eventually went to the saloon at the bar Fate, and one of them instructed he should go and see Volt. And that's when Boss was inspired by him and he became a bouncer. Of course, he still remembered all the nightmares and his negative experiences when he lost Chaldea at the galleons, which you saw in the Mikado saga. Through his negativity, sometimes Sion wished himself to just die on the spot, though Dominique and the others said, well, actually Wong said, "I forbid you to do such a thing." Ayame wished she would speed up his recuperation by giving him a senzu bean, but Korin said he only had one at his disposal, and it was used for emergencies only. Sion continued resting and kept having nightmares of killing people by fighting them all over the city. But in reality, it's Sion's darker self doing the dirty work. Not much of a drinker, but I hate the taste and the after effects. I like Mike's flavors, though. And I did some research on Japanese brands. I think the Sapporo is the most potent. And that image, that so-called painting, is in DeviantArt by Michael Main. I'll probably leave a link in the description. So there's the bouncer from Kicks Like a Mule. I actually chose this song by accident. I really thought it was part of the Bouncer's soundtrack, and I thought it was relevant because, you know, Sion's a bouncer, and one of his moves is like a mule kick. So, even though it was an accident, it's a really catchy song. And I got this during the Kaza years. So, I haven't mentioned in the story because it's background music, but there's also Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine. And the song would be appropriate for Sion's dark prowess, although little did I know it was based on the LA riots. And much like the Downtown, when I was playing the bouncer, I picked up that, and I actually pretended that Sion was singing it to let the rage loose, you know? So, this might be significant to Sion's dark self. What if he was actually a rebel, like the polar opposite, like a lone wolf? Also, if you play the bouncer, I had to look up a guide. Like, guide, dang it. You would actually see on survival or versus mode that you have to unlock a certain outfit for Sion, which is the black outfit, and it's only in survival mode with his distinctive image, his theme song, and all that. So that's it for part 1. Part 2 should be up soon, hopefully. Until then, this is the Ecron Writer signing out. Stay tuned for part 2.